Yo guys, what's going on? I am your host, AD the RPA guy, and in this episode, we're going to be doing a tell-all, and I'm going to be answering each and every question I've ever gotten around RPA, right? Such as what is RPA, how much do people make, all of that. In my opinion, RPA is the simplest tech skill that anyone can learn in 4 to 6 months and then go and get employment earning $100,000. It is the simplest, easiest, most effective entryway into a 6-figure remote tech career. Now, all of these answers I'm going to be giving you are going to be a mix of my personal experience as well as things that you can find on Google. Do not take my word for these things. Go and Google them yourself. I'm going to give you everything you need to know for you to figure out at the end of this video if a career in RPA is worth you investing in. So let's jump in. So the first question and most obvious question that I get is, what is RPA? Okay. RPA is short for robotic process automation. Those are big fancy words that don't really tell you a whole lot. Basically, think about it as this. Think about code, okay? What is code? Code is just instructions that you give to a computer, okay? I'll never forget, I was in like 3rd or 4th grade or something like that, and we had these people come to the school, fill up the auditorium, and they asked us to write down the instructions to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, okay? That's all it was. It was instructions top to bottom, okay? You can think of that same exact exercise. I actually have people in RPA University do that exercise, right? Write down the instructions on how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's actually a lot harder than what you think it is. But code is basically instructions that you give to a computer step by step by step in order to achieve a particular process, okay? And so what is RPA? RPA is basically like coding, except it's drag and drop. So instead of like writing lines of code one by one, you're dragging in activities that then turn into code, if that makes sense, right? The biggest example that I like to give is, let's say that you build homes, let's say that I build homes. Let's say that you build homes by brick and mortar. So like you get down on your hands and knees on hammers and nails and all that kind of stuff there. And let's just say I don't know how to do that. I just know how to 3D print homes. Okay. So I might have like my little 3D printing machine and I say, hey, I wanted to print a wall, and I press the print button and our wall is printed. And I push it again and I have another wall. Then I say, hey, print me a roof, right? And I press the button, now I have a roof. And essentially I'm building the same thing you're building. I'm just doing it in an automated fashion, a simpler fashion, a faster fashion, and I'm just going to outbuild you, okay? That is what RPA is, and that's kind of how it compares to code. It is basically the ability to drag and drop instructions into software that then act as if it's code, if that makes sense. So the second question is, how does RPA differ from traditional automation and AI? People like to use RPA and AI interchangeably. They are two totally different things, okay? So what is automation first? Automation is simply the process of taking information from somewhere, manipulating it somehow, and putting it somewhere else. That's all automation is. Okay. And so RPA does allow us to automate things. Okay. Now AI, what is AI? AI stands for artificial intelligence. So think of this as the computer having the ability to logic and reason and do math and do things on its own, to kind of like think for itself, right? That is what AI is. And that is not the same thing as RPA. They can be integrated. They can be used in tandem, but they are not the same thing. So again, code is instructions that you give to a computer. RPA is an easy way to give those instructions to a computer because you're dragging and dropping instead of writing code. And AI is a computer having the ability to logic and reason and think and make decisions and things like that for itself. So these are 3 totally different things, and that's the difference between the 3. So the next question I get is RPA a trend or is it here to stay? Okay. And so you can go Google this for yourself. I just typed in RPA forecasted demand. And the first result that I get says that Forrester's, okay, predicts that RPA market will grow to $22 billion by 2025. That's where we currently are, right? And then another article by PR Newswire says that the global robotic process automation market size is estimated to grow by 37 $8.6 billion from 2024 to 2028. So based on that information, I think it's here to stay. The next question I get is, how does RPA improve business efficiency and cut costs? This is a simple answer, right? Let's just say that you have an organization, let's say in your billing department, okay? And you have 10 people and their job is to just generate bills or make sure you're billing all your customers. And let's just say that my RPA software, or what I do as an RPA developer, is I watch these people do their job on their computer, right? Let's just say there's one process where, they log into some software, find out who they need to build. They show me what the process is. They show me where they click. They show me where they log into. They show me when they click download, how they send the email, all these things. I can watch them do this, and then I can build a bot that does these exact same steps. Now, let's just do some simple math. Let's say all 10 of these people, you're paying them $100,000 a year. So that's $1 million a year because you're paying 10 people $100,000. And let's just say that they spend 50% of their time doing this one particular task that I watched. Okay. So that means that of the $1 million you're paying per year to get this task done, $500,000 of that is what you're spending to get this process done. Well, if I can watch them do this and then build a bot that then does this without them necessarily needing to be in the process, you just saved $500,000. Okay. That is incredibly attractive to companies. And that is how and why they're looking to implement RPA within their organizations. The next question I get is, what are some real world examples of RPA in action? Okay. I'll give you guys a simple project that I did once before. Okay. I used to do RPA projects on Fiverr. Okay. That's Fiverr.com. And one guy hit me up on there, and he basically owns a music distribution company where, like, if you wanted to get your music on Apple and Spotify and all these other places, you would hire him, you send him your music, and then his job is to get it on all these different distribution platforms. And I think you pay him whatever you pay him per month, right? And so he hits me up and he's like, hey man, I have, 20 customers right now. And I have a guy in the Philippines who does my billing for me. Okay. So basically, at the end of every month, he gathers all the bills and emails everyone their bills. And that's how he collects all his revenue. And he says, hey, man, I'm about to scale from, 20 customers to 200 customers. And once that happens, I don't know if I'll be able, I'm trying to kind of get rid of the VA. But I still need this to happen. Do you think you can help me with that? Right. And I said, yeah. He showed me the process of what it looked like to build one person. Okay. And then from there, I built a bot using RPA that went and stepped through each and every single one of those exact steps and then build his customers. Right. And the bot did in, 30 seconds what it took a human 2 minutes to do. Right. And think about when you go from 20 to 200 or even 2000, that's going to take a lot of man hours, and you're going to have to pay that person a significant amount of money versus you pay me one time to build you a bot that you can run over and over and over and over again. Right. So that's one of the smallest, easiest, quickest examples that I can give you of RPA and how it works and why it's so valuable right now. The next question I get is, how much money does the typical RPA developer earn? Okay. Now this number changes depending on where you Google and what websites you go to and things like that. I've seen numbers that say the average RPA developer is earning like $98,000, right? Maybe that's entry level, but the number I like to use, and I think I got this from Glassdoor, but again, go Google this yourself. The average RPA developer today in America is earning $130,000. Okay. That's one job, $130,000. And take it from me personally, you're not going to find this online. Most of them are not working that hard. They're not working a full 40-hour work week. There's not that much work to go around. Okay. Now the smart ones, or some of the harder working ones are working multiple jobs. They're making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year. And I know some of my peers and my colleagues in the industry doing much more than that. The next question I get is RPA recession proof? Okay. So this one's going to be a lot of mixture of my personal opinion. No one is ever safe in a job. Okay. Like anyone can be fired. Any company can go out of business. Anyone can be laid off. Here's what I will say though, because RPA developers are developers, meaning they are doers in tech, meaning they have a hard skill. They are not a project manager. They are not a scrum master. They are not organizing meetings and things. They're doing the work, meaning if they leave, the work cannot get done because no one else has the skill set. So what I will say is that as a technical professional with a hard skill, and RPA falls under the hard skill umbrella, you are among the last people to be let go. And I'll give you an example. I've worked with a consulting company where they did like cybersecurity and web development and a bunch of stuff, right? And they weren't doing so well in their RPA department, meaning like they were taking on business, but they weren't finishing the contracts. And so they weren't getting paid out all the things. And then eventually the CEO was like, hey, we're just going to wipe our hands of this and we're going to stop doing RPA altogether. Right. And what happened was they ended up laying off the scrum masters, the project managers in the RPA department. But me, they're like, hey, you're a technical person. You're a doer. We know you're smart. We're going to try to repurpose you and have you do this. Does that make sense? So even though they shut down their RPA department, because I had a hard skill and they understood that I was smart, I was intelligent, I can learn things, right? They also understand it's hard to find another you. We can throw a rock out a window and hit a project manager. It's hard to find someone like you. Therefore, we're not going to fire you or lay you off. We're going to transition you to this other department. Next question I get is, will AI replace RPA in the future? Okay, now, obviously, this is just me giving my professional opinion. The answer is no. And I also don't even think that that question makes sense. Okay, because RPA is, again, it's a suite of software, just like you have Microsoft Word or Microsoft PowerPoint, things like that. Like, AI is not going to replace Word, replace PowerPoint. Like what AI does and what these software does, like it's totally different. Can you use AI to help you write a report or write a paper using Word? Yes. So RPA is kind of like the same thing. Like our AI is not going to be able to click and drag and drop and things like that. It can assist you. And even some of the bigger players in the RPA space right now, like Automation Anywhere and UiPath, like they have AI integrated into their software. Okay. So if it was going to replace it, I don't think that they would have spent the time and the money and the manpower to integrate it and like use the shit together. So that's just a silly question. No, it will not be replacing it at all. The next question I get is, who are the main players? Who are the big names in RPA? Okay. And as of today, you have 3, maybe 4. Okay. The first one, and these guys have the best product, the best service, they make the most money, is UiPath. Okay. If you're going to take time to learn any of them, I recommend that one because it has the most jobs, and because it has the most jobs available, you're more likely to get employed quicker. Okay. The second one is Automation Anywhere. I've worked with them. I've worked for them. I like their software. Highly recommend you go learn that too. The third one, and the reason that these guys are in third place, is because they bought an RPA software. They didn't build it, but it's Microsoft. Okay, Microsoft has a software called Power Automate Desktop, and the cool thing about theirs is that if you have a Windows computer, then you have it on your computer already for free, even if you didn't know about it, right? So that one is the most accessible. And then maybe in a close fourth, there's like Pega or someone like that. But those are the main 3 players in the space in that order. The next question I get is, what kind of companies are hiring for RPA developers? Okay. And the answer to that is actually twofold. So one, Fortune 500 companies, the Coca-Colas, the Yahoos, the big brands that have hundreds of thousands of customers, right? Because RPA is a software that typically, like, you're going to pay $50,000 as a company just to get started using it. So to be able to drop that kind of money, you need to have a significant amount of work for the RPA bots to do, right? So big major brand companies. Now, outside of that, how many companies or what companies can use it? All companies, right? Because again, this is automation. This is coding, but it's like drag and drop coding. So what company would benefit from having processes automated so that humans don't need to be there to get the job done? All fucking companies. Okay. So all companies are capable of using it, but typically jobs, you're going to see these hosts from bigger, larger institutions with hundreds of thousands of employees and millions of customers. The next question I get is, what is competition like in the field of RPA? Okay. Before I jump into this question, I'll say this. If you're thinking about competition, you're thinking like a loser. Okay. You must know that most people are average at things that they do. Most people, it averages bad. Most people suck at what they do. Okay. That includes RPA developers. That includes people who build homes. That includes people who own restaurants. Most people suck. So I don't think about competition. I think about becoming the best version of myself in this. Like if I become really good at it, then no one can compete with me. Okay. And you're also talking to someone who's been doing it for 7, 8 years now. I've worked with a lot of people. Some are really good. Most are not. Okay. So what is competition like? I'll say this. There is a shortage of 4 million developers today in America. Okay. This is why we outsource a lot of things to Pakistan and India and places like that. But of those 4 million, that 4 million shortage, RPA falls within there, right? So it's not 4 million RPA developers that there's a shortage for. It's just developers in general, and RPA is a portion of that. And so as far as competition, I guess there's lots of people applying for jobs, but most of them suck. Most of them don't know what they're doing. Most of them are lying on their resume. So to me, the competition is not really, a thing, right? And here's why I tell you that. I did a job interview many months ago. Okay. Let's just say the first interview was in February, right? And I got on the phone with the recruiter and they said, hey, we are interviewing in the month of February, but we're not really hiring anyone until the month of March. Okay. And so I did the first round interview, killed it. Second round interview, killed it. Third round interview, killed it. And then I finally got to the final hiring manager at the fourth round. And this is a month later, right? Because they're making their final decisions. And she opens up this interview and she's like, hey, how do you think the other interviews with my team went? And you know me, I'm confident. So I'm just like, I think they went well enough if I'm here. I don't think you would be wasting your time with a candidate speaking to them if you didn't, if your team didn't think they were worthy or didn't make the cut. And then she was like, okay, that's a fair enough point. You're the first one who's made it this far. Okay. Pause. You're telling me my little black ass, okay, who's been in this space only 6, 7, 8 years, right? Now I'm very good at RP. I'm not the best, but I'm pretty good. I am the first one to make it this far, and you've been interviewing for 30 days. Why? It's not because I'm great. It's because the competition in the market sucks. Okay. So to me, the competition in the market sucks. There's a lot of them, but most of them have no idea what they're doing. Okay. And so that's why I decided to create RPA University, because I realized that the marketplace is wide the fuck open for anyone who really wants to learn the skill at a high level. So those are my thoughts on competition in terms of RPA. The next question I get is, do I need a technical background in order to get into RPA? The answer to that is no. Okay. Again, when I go back to the numbers, right, you have to get out your feelings and think about numbers. There's a shortage of 4 million developers in the US. Okay. RPA falls underneath that. So let's just say of that 4 million, there's a shortage of 50,000 of them. There is a shortage, meaning there's jobs that exist, more jobs that exist than people who can fill them. Okay. So if you know the skill set at a high enough level and you can communicate that to you, or to your employer or the hiring manager, then you're likely to get the job. So do you need a technical background in order to do this? No. Does it help to have a technical background? Yes, but you absolutely do not need one. And of the people who I've had employed who've graduated RPA University, only one of them has ever had a technical background. Everybody else started from scratch, had no technical background, had never worked in tech before, still pulled it off, and has earned around $85,000, $90,000, or $100,000 in tech. So the answer is no. The next question I get is, what does the typical day look like for an RPA developer? This is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So every morning you probably have your stand up with your Scrum Master or your teammates or whatever, right? And on that call, you tell them what you did the day before, what kind of progress did you make? Did you accomplish what it is that you set out to accomplish, or did you not? And if you didn't, where do we need to get some help and some support from? Okay. And then you just kind of give them your commitment for that day, right? And then you're off and you're go do your work, right? Whether that work takes you 20 minutes to do, 2 hours to do, 5 hours to do, it's up to you and how much work that you commit to in that given day. And then you show up the next day to your sprint meeting when you do the same thing again. You give your commitment, you show what you did the day before, what you didn't do, things like that, right? Now, this answer though is really based upon how structured the company is and how structured their COE is. Your COE is your center of excellence. Basically, think of this as like the team responsible for growing RPA throughout a company. Okay. If you have a super well developed COE, then you're probably meeting every day or every other day. If you don't have a super well developed COE, then you might meet once a week. Right. But in general, you're going to spend about 30 minutes to maybe an hour a day in meetings. And then you're going to be spending the rest of that day building your bot or writing your code or doing your research or things like that. It probably comes out to 2 to 3 hours per work per day over the course of 5 days. So 15 to 20 hour work week. That's why I say you can earn $100,000 a year working 15 to 20 hours a week. And as long as you get your job done and you show up to the meetings, you're good. Next question I get is RPA a remote friendly career? And the answer to that is yes. Every job I've ever had in RPA was a work from home job. Every person who's ever graduated from RPA University is now working from home. I have had jobs where it was optional to come into the office. But typically, if I'm going into the office, it's because I enjoy the team, I enjoy the camaraderie. They're going to feed us and things like that. But I've never been in a position with RPA where they're like, hey, you must come to the office 5 days a week. I've never been in a position with RPA where they're like, you must come to the office 1 day a week. Okay. But again, it goes back to the mathematics of there's a shortage of developers. Okay. Because there's a shortage and because I do it at a high level, I can kind of make the rules as I see fit. Right. If I kind of think about it like firefighters, right? If there was a shortage of firefighters, and your house is on fire, you wouldn't ask the firefighter who pulls up in a truck like, hey, let me see your credentials before you put my fire out. You'd be like, bro, put this fucking fire out now. Because if there's a shortage of people, you understand that if he leaves, there's not likely to have anyone come back. And if he looks like he can do the job, if he shows up in a fire truck with a water hose, then you're just gonna be like, all right, bro, just do your job, help me out. That's what it's like being a high quality RPA developer who's in demand right now. The next question I get is, can I do freelance or contract work using RPA? And the answer to that is yes, because RPA is a technical skill, just like any other technical skill. So like earlier in this video, I talked about how I used to do contract work on Fiverr, right? I've also done work on Upwork. I've also got friends who just know what it is that I do in the industry and who will call me when they have contracts come up. Right? So the answer to that is yes, you can do freelance and contract work using RPA. Next question I get is, will I have to continuously learn new things in order to stay relevant in RPA? What I will say to that is yes, but nowhere near as much as what you have to do in other professions within tech, right? And let me kind of give you a story. I remember talking to a mentor one time and he was like, hey, AD, just so you know, the careers where there's lots of change are the ones where you're getting paid a lot, right? And the careers where there's not a lot of change are the ones where you don't get paid a lot. And the example that he gave was doctors and lawyers. He said a lawyer gets paid a lot because laws are constantly changing. And so they're having to keep up with laws. Right? A doctor gets paid a lot because medical journals and medical research is always changing and they have to be able to keep up with that. Right. And then he went to teachers and algebra. Right. He was like, algebra might be taught slightly different, but algebra hasn't changed in 100,000 years. So therefore, algebra teachers don't get paid a lot. OK. And so with RPA, it is a suite of technology. It's like one type of thing, right? And so I tell people it's kind of like Microsoft Word. Again, like, does Microsoft Word get updated as time goes on? Yeah, but it's minor update here, minor update there, minor update there, as opposed to being like a software developer where like, I remember Angular 1 came out, right? And then like I was supposed to learn it and I was like, man, I'm in over my head. This is difficult. And then a year or two later, they're like, scratch this. We need you to learn Angular 2, which is a totally different beast, a totally different monster. It's not a small change here, a small tweak there. It is a totally different thing. And I know people who've gotten out of software development because they get tired of having to learn new things over and over and over again. Okay. So RPA is a skill set where it will change over time and you do need to learn, but it's small tweak here, small tweak here. You're learning features. You're not learning new things. You're learning new features that have been added to the RPA software. You're not learning new technologies all over again from scratch. The next question I get that I actually like is, can I job stack with RPA? And the answer to that is yes. Okay. For those of you who don't know what job stacking is, this is when you're working two jobs, whether it's two W-2 jobs or two contracts or three jobs or four jobs, you're working them all at the same time. The question is, can you job stack with RPA? And the answer is yes. I know many people who do it. I know people who make $200,000 a year, $500,000 a year, $800,000 a year because they're working multiple contracts at once. Now, this is not something you're going to do from the jump. You've got to be doing it at a very high level. You have to really know what you're doing. But is it possible? Yes, it absolutely is. Next question I get is RPA hard to learn? And the answer to that is no. I've said this 100,000 times. I'll say it again. RPA is the simplest tech skill I have ever laid my eyes on, period. If there were something simpler, I would shut this channel down now and I would go learn that. But because it's the simplest thing I've ever learned, it is your easiest ticket, your easiest way to go about getting into the tech industry. So that's it, guys. Those are all the biggest questions that I get in terms of tech and RPA. All of it's there. Like, I don't have any other answers about RPA. If you're asking me anything, I'm going to redirect you to this video. So I want you to do two things, okay? If you haven't seen it already, I want you to click this video somewhere on the screen, and it is me building a bot using RPA in like 6 minutes. I have someone who I pay to go write some code, and then I build a bot that does the exact same thing that code does in like 2 to 3 minutes. And I walk you through it. So that way you can see how simple it is. Okay. And the second thing I want you to do is, if you are the kind of guy who's decided, hey, I really want to break into tech, like I've decided I'm going to do it, right? And two, you're the kind of guy who's decided that me, AD, RPA University is the method in which you want to take, okay? And you're ready to invest in yourself, because RPA University is not cheap, okay? Just so you know, the goal is to become the most expensive product in the marketplace, because that's how great this opportunity is. But if you are that kind of person, you're ready to get into tech and you've decided, you've convinced yourself that I am the guy that you want to work with, and I want you to click the link below in the description to see if you qualify for a pre-screen call with either me or one of my associates on my team. So that's it for this episode, guys. Till next time, I am your host, AD the RPA guy, signing off.